Running down the street, stop and smell the flowers. Running down the street, stop and smell the flowers.
Hello, Diverse Cymru, Kirsty speaking. How can I help?
Expensive fun, chemical warfare, the damage is done. Broken families, mothers sigh, fathers for justice, CSA sign dialogue. We don't want to lose this precious hour. We don't want to lose this precious hour. No. Skyline changes.
This lady was my first case. When I went for our first meeting and the introductions, there was a lot of high emotions where there's been a previous letdown with support workers. So there was a problem probably with trust at that point. Nobody knew which angle I was coming from. I was new, but all I had at that point was a lot of notes to read and take over. I think within the first or second week of supporting this lady, I had to go to a child protection conference. I think it was a child in need conference. And that's when, again, I started to read the notes and things and see what was happening. And to be honest, it was like as if everything on paper didn't actually match the lady that was presented before me. You know, I knew that, okay, there's obviously been some breakdown somewhere because, you know, this lady's fighting for her life here. And it's like as if the support level wasn't there. But for me to pick up a support from somebody so low, it was very difficult to pick her up.
With Donna, I felt that she was honest right at the beginning. There was no, I know it all, and you know, I'm your support worker and I'm the bigger person. No, she was completely honest. I haven't got a clue, but I'm going to go and look it up. And, you know, I thought to myself, at least she's honest. At least she's not saying, I'm going to sort it out and then there's nothing at the end of it. She was honest about it and she goes, we'll go through it together. I'll look it up and I'm going to ring you back and I'm going to tell you this is what happens at this child protection meeting. These are our options and this is how we're going to go forward. And she was really good at negotiating with social services as well, because I felt I couldn't negotiate with them because they were saying all these negative things about me. I felt I was being a target, so I couldn't, without becoming aggressive, I couldn't talk to them. What I was told was the social services were there to help me, to help the children. But what I actually felt in reality is that they weren't giving a balanced side of the story. It was all negative things were typed up, put in black and white and posted to my house. And here you go, that's the sort of person you are. And it was all negative things. She has neglected her children, she's neglected the house, she's neglected the children's needs. Her son doesn't speak because of her, it's her problem, she's done this to her child. Everything was negative, negative, negative. They weren't helping me. I was going from, I was digging deeper and deeper into a hole. I couldn't even see a way out.
I hadn't met you and I didn't know you. And it was the same team of social workers.
Yeah.
I think the social worker that was there at that time, she might have been the
awful.
second or the third one you'd already had.
Yeah, it was.
So there was no continuity of the service of having a
There
social
wasn't,
worker.
that's true, yeah.
So I only could take from what everybody was saying because it was, you know, I'd just met you there. I hadn't met you beforehand.
I could never get an appointment with this solicitor, but Donna calls, we have an appointment. Solicitor wasn't taking me seriously, wasn't taking my worries into consideration. He would say, yeah, we'll see the next, I don't know where it's going from here, not ring me back once I've asked for reassurance, really, wasn't it, to tell me where is my case going.
I'm sat here at Diverse Cymru's head office in Canton, in Cardiff, and I'm with Paul, who's director, and I'm going to ask Paul a number of questions about the organisation, which is a fascinating organisation, as you will see. How do you keep Diverse Cymru abreast of the changing financial situation in the wider world, Paul?
It's difficult times, and part of my role is creating partnerships with other organisations, but also working closely with the public sector, with the local authority, with the health service, the fire service, the police. And I sit on various strategic groups and partnerships and networks, contributing to the equality agenda around the subject matter that they're talking of. And consequently, I get information back as well. And it's part of my role to come back to the organisation and say, look, this is what's happening either in the community, on a national or local level, and take those issues forward internally here, but make sure we're addressing the needs of the community out there. And that's how I gather those views. Diverse Cymru is a new organisation. It was only launched in December 2011. It's a long road that we're on now. It's an all-equality organisation, the first organisation of its kind in Wales. And I think, you talked about the austere measures that we've got now. And I think bringing all those equality issues together, because it's not just a disabled person that may come to us, it's not just a gay person that comes to us, it's not just a black person that comes to us. They may cover a number of the equality strands. So it's about us delivering a one-stop shop, so that person doesn't have to go here on Monday, somewhere else on Tuesday, somewhere else on Wednesday. They can get all the service here. An easier process for us, but what I'm more concerned about is that it makes it a much more easier and accessible service for the individuals out there in the community.
Please, can you give us some information about your education and past employment history?
Comprehensive education in Bridgend. I left school to train as a chef, and I was a chef for 10 years.
Oh, nice.
Then I had two little ones, and went from job to job, pine furniture, fork truck driving. And I've got a disability myself, and both my children are born with the same disability. So I got to the stage where I actually wanted to have a career rather than just a job. So I looked at sort of my personal upbringing, my background, the issues that I went through, and also looking at the issues that my children were going through at the time. So I decided to go into training around social work and social care. Did 2 years on a social care course. Intended then to go on and do my social work degree, but an opportunity came up with a job working for SNAP Cymru, which is an organisation that supports parents of children with special educational needs, which was at the time close to my heart with my two children. And worked my way up the ranks there, then became director of the County Voluntary Council in Cardiff, and had a break where I opened up a newsagent, and then came back into Cardiff, running an all Wales organisation called Skill Wales, which is the National Bureau for Disabled Students. And then I came to the organisation that we see today.
Running down the street, stop and smell the flowers. Running down the street. How do the organisation keep abreast of the ever-changing Cardiff? Cardiff is going through some major changes in a very short period of time.
Yes, I know, and some of those reflections is what are we seeing here through our advocacy workers. But because of the staff team that we have, and we have an active board as well, who have skills in lots of different areas. So we're always aware of what's going on, I would say, and we got a fabulous information officer and an assistant as well, and part of their job is to keep up with what is going on in Cardiff, or indeed what's going on with Wales, how that affects Wales is promoted then on our website. We have a board that discusses at that level, and would try and develop the organisation, because those things that are happening in Cardiff, that are happening in Wales, is how we can develop different services to meet those needs at Diverse Cymru. Like, one of our ambitions, I know, is not just have an office like this here, but to have what they call a front of office, and there was an empty building downstairs, and we wanted to have like an information hub and do other services, so we got a face at the front, and we can be doing other things at the back here. So that's something that we're looking for to develop, which is something that I know is needed, because people want to see those services out front that they can just drop in and go again. But you know, it's what suits the individual outside, and that's always what we're striving to support.
How often do you have sessions where senior staff have group meetings to try and develop new methods and processes within the organisation?
Well, what I think last year, I think we had away days, and I think I think it was two. I'm not sure if it was two of them last year, and maybe we've had one this year, where the whole staff and some of the board members come away, and we had an independent facilitator then talking about, I suppose, you know, that SWOTs, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and those things. We talk about a communication strategy and how best we can work together, and how we'll know what goes on in this room, what work is getting on done in other rooms. So the whole organisation together, and what was taken from there is what's formed our Diverse Cymru strategy, and we all contributed to writing that strategy. So it wasn't just from that. Then there was a draft sent around, then we all commented on the draft, and each individual project, like the advocacy project, the support staff, the direct payments project, then they all fed into that individually and said how they can work with others, and how there's our work can cut across each other. So we're always working
in tandem.
Yes.
I'd like to introduce you to Kay Jenkins.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Kay.
Afternoon.
Nice to meet you. Could you tell us a bit about how long you've been working with the organisation?
Yeah, I started off in 2000, and it was called Cardiff and Vale Coalition of Disabled People. And then I started off as a direct payment support worker. Then I moved up to a direct payments coordinator, which coordinated a team of support workers. And now, since March this year, I've been seconded to the social services to assist them with promoting direct payments, training people, training social workers, case managers, the START team, contact assessment team, going out on visits, promoting it with them, everything to do with direct payments basically.
Tell us what it's like actually working for Diverse Cymru, because whilst I've been here making the film in my various guises where I've met you previously,
Yeah.
I've always felt it's like a family, a kind of family affair. It's a very friendly environment.
I think it's quite a unique organisation really.
I agree with you.
Because we offer a lot of services under one roof, you know. We've got advocacy service, you know, access group, peer support group for people on direct payments. It's quite a number of things, BME groups, you know. So to me it's unique. The things has changed with the times, which some people may say is good or bad, I don't know. It was of disabled people, but now it's variation, which I agree with. I think equality, we are diverse, and I think everybody should work with each other. And it's a good way of integrating disabled people and non-disabled people together in an organisation, as long as the disabled person is in charge.
Good afternoon, Richard, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
You're in the finance department.
That's right, yes.
Correct. How are you finding things with the austere conditions outside in the wider financial world?
Well, I actually only been involved with charity for very recently, but we've already seen one of the funders cut their grant for next year.
Already?
Already. Not much by, but still, because businesses reliant on income, and of course we get a lot of grants from funders, but if
Feeling the pinch?
if they're feeling the pinch, then they're less can give us. Hopefully we should be alright, but we don't get the money in, we can't deliver what we want to.
Does it add pressure to your position?
Not necessarily to mine, because I'm just the one who actually puts the figure scale at the end of it. More the case of people who are going out trying to win, like Charles, people like that. So the only way it pushes pressure on me is that if we need to where we're doing the budgets, do we need to cut back here? Then that's push pressure on me, that side of it, trying to look for areas where we can make cutbacks and try not to be too painful.
Do you like working for the organisation, Richard?
I do. I used to be in practice and going to audit businesses, different sizes, different shapes, different areas. And, I thought, well, going to businesses, trading businesses, I thought, they're all right here, they're happy. But I go to a charity, it's something different. It took me actually to one in Birmingham. I can't remember what it's called now. But I suddenly realised, rather than working for the salaries, for the bonuses, for the dividends, for the profits, they're working for one cause. The cause of the charity. I thought, I like that. If I ever get an opportunity, I'd love to work for charity. And when Charles offered me a job, I said, was I interested? Yes, please.
I'm with one of the directors, Mr. Charles Willie. Good afternoon, Charles.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for the time and to be able to do this project. How do you keep Diverse Cymru abreast of the ever-changing metropolis, Cardiff?
We work actually, although we are the intention and the plan is that we will, and to some degree already are, a Wales-wide organisation. Our base is in Cardiff and no getting away from that. And what we've developed over the last few years is really good relationships with Cardiff Council, and to the extent that we sit on many of the strategic and decision-making committees, and in keeping abreast of what's happening and so forth, and I suppose importantly being able to have an input into that, that is something that we've spent time in developing and being part of, so we're aware of what's happening and can have an input into it.
Are your clients getting younger?
Interestingly, in terms of, we had a younger people's project, and comes back to the issue of funding. Everyone raved about this project, yet couldn't find money to be able to continue the project, and ultimately had to let the youth worker we had go, despite the rave reviews. Because what this youth project we had did, just by way of a simple thing that actually sort of just shows, we had 12 or 13 young disabled children, different impairment types. And the task that we had for them was to go around Cardiff and access venues and rate it, And guess what? They produced from that a DVD, a booklet, and they did it all themselves in terms of that. Even had a premiere at the Odeon down the bay to actually do that. And it just showed in terms of their own views about how accessible venues and so forth actually was, and from that, what we wanted to do was to look at Wales more generally and move that forward. Did I find the money? No. Such a shame. It's not all doom and gloom, because one of the things that the project sought to do was to engage with the managers of these venues, identify what the issues were, and a lot of it was ignorance rather than not
Nice.
wanting to do.
Yeah.
And many took on board what was put forward and did it. Yeah,
So it wasn't a waste of time.
it wasn't, and more so than that. Do you know what I found in terms of most satisfying? And I'll give you a very simple example of that. Is how these youngsters, became friends and stayed friends. There was a young lad, no arms, and yet he was the one teaching others to swim. Yeah, and the basis of that, in terms of the impairments that people have, the assumptions that we actually have, about that, it just broke down those barriers. Helping somebody in a wheelchair in terms of, it was great. There's a good basis as far as being able to take equality forward. This organisation is a small organisation, and one of its key ethos, as I said, in terms of making practical changes, is also working in partnership with people to actually seek to make those changes. And I think that's the only way forward in terms of being able to make those changes in people's lives, is about close working, good working relationships with people. But it's not just about talking about things, but doing.
I'm interviewing Donna, who works for Diverse Cymru. Good afternoon, Donna.
Good afternoon.
And
nice
how are
to meet
you?
Not too bad, thank you.
Excellent. How are you feeling, coping, when you first met Aisha?
Well, when I first met her, she was in quite a sorry state, to be honest. She'd lost a lot of faith in the system, whereas the support workers that she had previously, a lot of promises and letdowns. So by the time I walked in and introduced myself, I think she'd had enough. The way that she was coming across was, still polite and mannerful, but I knew that she didn't have no faith in what I was about to do or what I was promising her. But I understood that was because of the situation she's in. I know she was extremely depressed, she was feeling anxious, and it was a lot for me to think, how am I going to help break through this? And what worked was just listening. I listened to her story, and I felt shocked at what this lady's been through. I'm not sure what I can say is down to, really, but I think what happened was she had a lot of people in her life, a lot of so-called professionals in her life. She had the social workers, she had certain other support workers and other organisations all stepping on each other, but all doing nothing. And one of the problems is the fact that people were promising her things, promising her help. We'll help you with this, we'll help you with that, but not providing that help. So on paper, it looked like she had a lot of help and a lot of support, but actually nobody was actually doing anything for her. I think those are what partly some of the problems is everybody wanting to be involved, and there's that saying about too many cooks. There was nothing going on, and it just took a practical person like myself to come in and to say, right, roll my sleeves up, let's get on with it, and to bring her along with me and empower her to do the work as well. I think a lot of people want to just come in, take over and fix, and I find that that's just destructive in a sense, because she needs to actually go through the journey herself into recovery. She needs to help do the garden, then the garden is not going to get in that state again. Those kind of things I put out there. Practical help. I think that was missing, is practical help. It was all theory.
Running down the street, stop and smell the flowers. Running down the street, stop and smell the flowers.